Ladies and gentlemen, for a session sponsored by Tinyclues, please welcome founder and CEO Tinyclues, David Bessis, in discussion with SkiftX research editor Jeremy Kressmann.
All right, so in this session, we're going to talk about a topic I think it's very much in the minds of a lot of people in this room, which is artificial intelligence. There's a lot of buzz right now, I think, in the industry about the potential for technologies like AI or machine learning, whatever you want to call it, to streamline the travel industry's marketing efforts. But I think a lot of those industry perceptions around AI, they're based around putting everything on autopilot. It's going to be automated, you won't have to do anything. And using AI to just take a certain action, like a rule or a trigger, if you will. But I think when we do this, we're actually missing a bigger opportunity that David's going to talk about, which is combining human insights with AI to build lasting relationships with customers. So again, we've got David from Tinyclues here to help tell us more about this interesting application of AI. Welcome, David.
Welcome. Thank you.
Good to have you here. So I want to ask you, David, do you see a disconnect right now between what marketers think artificial intelligence should do and what its true value is for the travel industry?
Yes, there is a disconnect, and I think it explains a lot of the disappointment some people have with AI. You have basically two ways to have expectation from AI. One is about using AI to automate things that human can do.
Okay.
The example is chatbot. You replace very basic human thing. The thing is, it's not really working, replacing human. It's a bit disappointing, a bit underwhelming. Now, there's something more interesting, which is augmenting what human can do, making human able to do things that are actually more intelligent. And interestingly, it's not just more interesting, but it's actually working today.
Okay. So it's kind of like there's this emotional side to marketing that we're forgetting about a little bit, and you actually think we can go beyond what we're doing with that.
Yeah.
You have this great analogy that we've talked about before we were preparing for this chat. It's about the self-driving car example. Can you explain the analogy of the self-driving car as it relates to this idea of like AI for automation versus AI that's human-powered? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a good example of what's a disappointment. Like 2-3 years ago, everybody was saying they're coming, self-driving cars. The thing is, the CEO of Waymo, the Google self-driving car project, announced a few months ago that basically they're not there and they're not getting there anytime soon.
Right.
Sure, but it's working, in the suburbs of Phoenix, there are experiments. You have no ice, no wind, no rain. The biggest animal is a rattlesnake. You can do it. But look at Manhattan.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah, I've tried to drive in Manhattan. Forget about it.
You're not going to replace humans anytime soon in Manhattan. But instead of replacing humans, think about Waze. Mm-hmm. Think about the backup camera.
Right.
And I think people should expect AI to do that, to augment, to make them super intelligent marketers, super intelligent drivers, and this is much more concrete, practical, and it's actually happening today.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when you're using Waze, it's helping you drive, but you still have to drive the car, and it's the combination of those that's really powerful. David, there's this narrative in the media about artificial intelligence, and it's replacing all these jobs, it's going to replace humans, everything's going to be automated. But the sense I get from what you're saying is that humans have this really important role to play. Can you explain why and what some of those opportunities are?
Yeah, so in marketing, you have two super important reasons why you cannot get rid of humans, which is actually good news for many of us. One is, humans, they're much better than robots at empathy, mm-hmm. and at storytelling, and at creative. Mm-hmm. And, marketing, if you don't know how to storytell, it's going to be pretty lame. Mm-hmm. Second thing, if you want to replace humans, you have to have full situation awareness in a machine, mm-hmm. which is basically impossible to achieve.
Right.
Let me give a concrete example. Let's say you're a travel marketer and you promote a certain destination, and there was an earthquake yesterday. Yeah. That data is never in your system. Mm-hmm. So if you want to take the human away from the decision in marketing, you're going to do super dangerous things very quickly.
Right. Well, it's, all of these news organizations out there, even marketers have these social media posts set, right? And then some event happens in the news, and all of a sudden, that pre-planned social media message is no longer a good idea, right?
And this is why productivity is not the key thing. The problem is not to get more productive, it's to get better at what you're doing.
So you really can't just set it and forget it. You really need to have some nuance here and have a human that's making decisions about what is or isn't right. This sounds like that. What are the results of this type of AI-human interface? Maybe we can call it a cyborg or something, if you will.
Yeah.
What does it look like? Can you give us some examples of like?
So cyborg is funny because it looks very abstract, very science fiction thing.
Yeah.
But it's all super concrete.
Yeah.
So if you look at marketing for a travel company, let's say you're an airline or a hospitality company or cruises, you have that fundamental problem of having very important demands coming from the business. Talk about that destination that we've just launched, or where we have extra capacity for this very specific booking window, or a new service class or whatever. The complexity of the demands you get, it looks like driving in Manhattan, It's not one-dimensional. And then you have millions of customers. And this is exactly a problem like Waze could solve,
Right.
And this is actually what we do for our customers. So it's a very, very practical use case using AI applied to customer data and business inputs. This is the co-driving thing to optimize how you engage your customers.
Sure.
Practical examples of impact. This morning went out a Forrester study, an independent Forrester study with one of our customers.
Yeah.
A big global hospitality company with thousands of hotels.
This is a big company that you're
It's a big company. What Forrester modeled is that the impact of Tinyclues is, in 3 years, incremental revenue of $80 million.
$80 million.
So it's substantial.
Yeah.
And very concrete use case. And it's about day-to-day marketing operations. How you manage your traffic, hundreds of campaigns, millions of customers. How do you balance that? This is typically something where AI can help. But you still choose what you want to talk about, how you prioritize, you define the rules, how you value things, but then it's optimized with AI.
Right.
Second example, we're working with Air France. So in the airline industry, it's really about, you have capacity for a certain destination.
Sure.
They were able to increase by 62% the specific bookings for a given destination generated by marketing campaign when it's targeted with AI.
Okay.
Very practical.
Yeah, it sounds like it's already being used very effectively by the industry. One last question I have for you, and this is something I always wonder about, having worked or talked with a lot of people in marketing for a long time. Marketing automation, it's this term people always use, it's this whole category of software. How is that different than AI? Can you help clear that up for me?
Yeah, that's interesting. I recently came to the conclusion that marketing automation does not exist.
Really?
Which is weird because you have a big, Gartner segment about marketing automation software.
Right, yeah. You see it in all the studies.
What is marketing automation? If you look carefully, it's about basically retargeting people once they've done something. So this is conversion automation, or it's about lifecycle automation. You book your airplane ticket, you get your boarding pass and all that automated. But this is not marketing. Marketing is something different. Marketing has a component about storytelling, about creative, about promoting things that you're not actively looking. And that discovery element, that creative element, that it's something about human emotion,
Yeah, it's the heart of marketing, right?
Yeah, there's not much emotion in marketing automation,
Right.
Abandoned basket email, not very emotional. So very functional. We should call that conversion automation. It's great. Everybody needs it.
It still needs to happen.
But the real marketing is not about reacting to something people have just done. It's about talking about new things and, hey, why don't you go to the Machu Picchu? Yeah?
Right.
But it's not because you went to the Machu Picchu last year that I should trigger a message saying, hey, go to the Machu Picchu this year. It's a different problem. And it's something that has to align two things that live in a completely different world. One is the business needs, the business opportunity, the storytelling. And this is purely a creative marketing problem of translating the business needs into messages. And then you have AI to understand who should receive that message.
Right.
So it's human intelligence and big data working hand in hand. And this is actually very practical and it's functioning.
Yeah, it's the best of both worlds, right? It's the traditional world, but it's also the data-optimized world and coming together in a way that's really powerful for a category that is very emotionally driven and about stories. So, David, I think we can leave things there. Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you, Jeremy.